call Allah Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rukaha Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives to do so. To the scattered hopeful elect across the four corners of the earth, and those among the heathen nations that look like the heathen nations pursuant to Jeremiah 12:9, known as the speckled birds, because this is not a black thing. I am disciple of Parium, a follower of Great Millstone, coming to you with a lesson in truth and sincerity. This lesson I want to kind of touch upon the lone wolf versus the body. Okay. So we see different accounts in the scriptures where some of the apostles and prophets, had to go out and do the work, due to the circumstances that they were in and the times that they were living in, and various different captivities. Such examples could be, Elijah, Isaiah, and other men that that prophesied by themselves. But idealistically, it is not in your best interest to be amongst the body. It's idealistically, it's in your best interest to be amongst the body and not be by yourself, if possible. So I first want to go to Proverbs 17:17. And it reads, "A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity." All right. So we know that the days of the times of Jacob's trouble is at hand. And it doesn't matter where you move to in this world. Those who are of Jacob are going to be afflicted. Okay. You can't just get away from these curses. They're generational. However, we see these curses befalling upon our enemies, little by little. But things have to take place first. Now I want to go to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 4, verses 8-12. There is one alone, and there is one alone, and there is not a second. Yea, he have neither child nor brother. Yet is there no end of all his labor? Neither is his eye satisfied with riches, neither saith he, for whom do I labor, and bereave my soul of good? This is also vanity, yea, it is sore travail. So it says, but the NLT reads, but when he asks himself, who am I working for? Why am I giving up so much pleasure now? It is also so meaningless and depressing. Verse 9, 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow, but woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. Verse 11, again, if 2 lie together, then they have heat, so they can keep each other warm, right? But how can one be warm alone? Verse 12, and if one prevail against him, 2 shall withstand him. And if a threefold cord is not quickly broken. So in the NLT it says, a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but 2 can stand back to back and conquer. 3 are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. And man, you watch movies, martial arts movies, and you see these things, and just kind of fighting back to back, and that's got to be us in those times of Jacob's trouble. is we were that much more stronger together than being separate. This is a hard thing to be by yourself in this walk. And if you can avoid it, best bet is to do so. So these are the advantages of companionship. Now, I want to go to the book of Sirach. So let me get out of here real quick. Yep. So this is book of Sirach, chapter 37, verses 12 to 16. All right. So this is going into caution and taking advice. But be continually with a godly man whom thou knowest, to keep the commandments of the Lord, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry. And let the counsel of thine own heart stand, for there is no man more faithful unto thee than it. For a man's mind is sometimes wont to tell him more than 7 watchmen that sit above a high tower. So, let's go back real quick. So like I'm pulling up the GNT right now so you can kind of understand a little better. Okay, so I'll read the GNT. Let me start over, Salaki. So let's go back to 12 and just follow along. And I'm going to read the GNT. So instead, rely on someone who is religious or, has a way of worship. We don't do religion, right? And known to keep the Lord's commandments. Someone who is sympathetic with you, who will be sorry to see you fail. Verse 13. And trust your own judgment. No one's advice is more reliable. Verse 14. Sometimes your own intuition can tell you more than 7 watchmen on a high tower. Verse 15. Above all, pray to the Most High that He will show you the right things to do. And going to verse 16. And it reads, planning and thought lie behind everything that is done. So right there it says, let reason go before every enterprise and counsel before every action. And, in my walk, I've sought counsel. And this is the reason why I'm doing this epistle regarding Lonewolf versus the body. So essentially my rib, wants to move to Spain because it's going to be, I guess, better for, my mother-in-law who lives with us for her medical. And supposedly my daughter will have better opportunities. But we know that this third wave is coming very quickly. And in the EU, they're trying to implement many things, with the vaccine passport and whatnot. And so I'm just kind of closely monitoring that. But yeah, just, in being over there, it would be very difficult to be away from the body, here in Dallas. But, this is something in the future, so I'm not worrying about that right now. It's something I just kind of keep an eye on. So let's go to the book of Corinthians, 1 Corinthians, chapter 7, verse 28, I believe. Yeah. And it reads, I'm going to read the NLT. You guys follow along right there in verse 28. It says, but if thou, but if you do get married, it is not a sin. And if a young man, if a young woman gets married, it is not a sin. However, those who get married at this time will have troubles, and I am trying to spare you those problems. So it says, nevertheless, such shall have troubles in the flesh, and that's what this these things are, the troubles in the flesh. But we know that things will be put into order in the kingdom of heaven, and we won't have to worry about such things. Now, right here it talks about, it's a beautiful chapter for brothers who do have a rib about marriage. It's not saying, if you are married, we're not saying to, obviously leave the marriage, but Paul advises that you would have be more focused, in a sense, to do the will of the Most High. Yeah. But essentially, our first love really is wisdom, is Sophia, right? That's wisdom in the Greek. And so the Yahweh Shai is the bridegroom, and we are, the bride. And so we have to make sure that we're in accordance with what he wants, But yeah, I think this is another topic for another time. I would love to get into. So let's go to the book of, back to the blue letter. So this is Matthew chapter 18 and verse 20. And it reads, for where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. All right. So that's plain. This is not about brick and mortars, being in the church. No, this is about, putting on the word, putting out the word of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai on the highways and the byways and the hedges, physically, not just done online, not just doing these online epistles, but going out there and showing obedience. Okay. Because we were called, that was a commandment that was given out by Yahweh Shai, was to go out into the highways and byways and to preach unto the lost sheep of Israel. That's a commandment. All right. And yes, they didn't have internet back in the day, but we got to do this physically. And we're not preaching out to everybody, because at the end of the day, this is going out into a remnant. Okay. A small, chosen by the Spirit. Let's go to Matthew 22 and verse 39. And it reads, and the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. But when you get that word neighbor, it's very peculiar. And we know that this comes from Leviticus 19 and 18 as well. It's Strong's G 4139, and it's plesion, all right? It says a neighbor, a friend. Let's see. Here it is, B right here. It says any other person, and where 2 are concerned, the other, thy fellow man, thy neighbor, according to the Jews, right? Any member of the Hebrew nation and commonwealth. So that's what that's going into, okay? That neighbor is not just anybody. Those are Israelites first and foremost, because also we know that it's a people before it's a place. But those who also do the will of Yahushua, Hamashiach. Okay. Let's go back to in the Apocrypha. We'll go to the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 2 and verse 45. Because, we mentioned that this is going on to the remnant and the elect. Okay? So I wanted to be able to talk about that. Right? So it says, he answered and said unto me, these be they that have put off the mortal clothing and put on the immortal, and have confessed the name of Yahweh, right? Now are they crowned and received palms. Okay? And so I want to read there's a book of 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 4. And I want to get that in the NLT because that is amazing scripture right there. So while we live in these earthly bodies, we groan and sigh. But it's not that we want to die and get rid of these bodies that clothe us. Rather, we want to put on our new bodies, all right, so that these dying bodies will be swallowed up by life. Okay, so we know that those are the bodies terrestrials that we will receive, all right, in the kingdom, the throne of David, which Yahushua would be ruling over. Okay. And going back into that Jacob's trouble, let's go ahead and pull this up in the blue letter. Because I mentioned it earlier, and this kind of coincides with 2nd Ezra 2 and 45. So I want to get to Revelations 2 verse 10. It says, "Fear none of those which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison." Right? And that devil just goes into the word deceiver, which predominantly is Esau, Edom. Right? It says, "You are of your father, the devil." Right? It says, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Okay, so these are the times that we're coming in, and so if you could avoid it, don't be a lone wolf. Okay. And this also, I believe, coincides with Revelation 7 and verse 9, where it says, "And after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man can number, of all nations, kindreds, and peoples, and tongues," because we were diaspora, we were spread out, just like in James 1 and 1, it says to the 12 tribes and the other nations, it says greetings, right? And peoples and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes and palms in their hands. So this goes into the remnant, the election, the election. All right, this is not for everybody, but for those who have ears to hear. Sincerity. Now, I want to finish off in the book of Hebrews, chapter 10. And verse 25. It says, "Not forsaking the assembly of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as ye see the day approaching." Right? So in the NLT is neglect not our meetings together, as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing nigh. So with that, I pray this lesson was edifying. Kwam Yasharallah, Shalom, and on to the next.